I'm Harvey Blankfeld, host of Las Vegas Real Estate Now and principal of the Blankfeld Group at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services of Nevada. We have prepared this video for you so you can better understand the documents we use here in Southern Nevada. And while we don't review every section of the document, we do try and clear up some of the most relevant concerns. We are recording this video in 2023, and if you're watching long after that, there are likely changes that have taken place with this document, and this video may have some parts that are outdated. Also know that we operate in Southern Nevada, and these forms are specific to our market. While you may be able to glean some value from this video, please know that no two markets operate exactly alike. And finally, I need you to know that I'm not an attorney, and none of what I'm saying should be interpreted as legal advice. Okay, let's get started. The exclusive authorization and right to sell, exchange, or lease brokerage listing agreement, ER in parentheses, which stands for exclusive right. This is the agreement that we use when we're working with a seller to sell their property, and it gives us the right to market their property through multiple lists. There are exceptions to that, and also, of course, to market it elsewhere. It is exclusive, which means we would be the only broker listing your property through multiple lists. And the truth is that once you choose a broker, you don't need another one because everything that we do is in multiple lists. We share it with other brokers. That's the agreement we make with other brokers. The difference between one broker and another might be subtle when it comes to the multiple listing in terms of what they put in the listing and how they put it in there, how much detail, what quality of photography, what quality of video they put in there. But then the real difference between one broker and another is what they do outside of multiple lists. The marketing they do, either print or online or social media, all those elements. Those are the things you're going to want to investigate when you're thinking about who you want to list with. But let's talk about this document. It's 11 pages long, so let's just dig into it. Right up top here, you can see this is the listing agreement, ER, as I described. And underneath, you see some bold text here. I'd like to read this. This is intended to be a legally binding contract. No representation is made as to the legal or tax consequences of this contract. If you desire legal or tax advice, consult your attorney or tax advisor. You know, we're salespeople. We're not lawyers. We're not accountants. So here's the agreement itself. This is between the sellers, here in this case, Dean Martin and Phyllis Diller, and my broker, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Nevada Properties. It starts on the 25th of January in 2023, and it expires on July 24th of 2023. This is the tax ID number of the property, and then just below that right here is the address of the property. I'm not going to highlight that, but you can see it's Sahara Avenue. The listing price shall be $975,000. The earnest money deposit requested through the listing will be $12,000. The seller would accept any number of terms, either cash, conventional financing, FHA, or VA financing. The seller, does authorize us to disclose the existence of multiple offers. So if we have an offer and another offer comes in, we can disclose to the agent, hey, we already have an offer, or we have multiple offers. But in this case, I'm having the seller saying does not authorize us to disclose the terms of those offers. This is the way I like to do it. I like to be able to disclose to other agents that there are offers, but I don't want to reveal the details of those offers to them. And these are all choices. As a seller, you can make these choices. These are the choices I prefer, but you might go a different direction. Down here, things that are offered with the property. Traditionally, we might decide refrigerator, washer, and dryer are considered personal property here in Nevada. So if they want to stay, if you want to leave them with the property, you would include them in the sale here, and that's what we're doing right here. And then if there's anything you want to exempt, if there's an attached fixture, in this case, the lighting fixture in the dining room, this lighting fixture was in the family for many, many years. They don't want to give it up with the house. They want to take it with them. In this case, we're going to exempt it from the sale. My suggestion to sellers, however, is this. If that is something that you really want to keep, I suggest you take it down and replace it with something like similar or less expensive, just something, replace it so that the buyer doesn't ever actually see it and then maybe desire it. I don't want to have to fight for your dining room fixture because the buyer wants it. So if we take it out of the way, box it up, put it away, stow it away in the garage, I think that's a better course of action with this particular element of the contract. The property does not contain smart technology in this case. Now, I'm going to also talk about the smart home disclosure, which is a separate disclosure we now have, and I'll do that in another video. If the home did contain smart elements to it, you might want to incorporate that disclosure / addendum to this agreement as well. And it says here, If the property does contain smart technology, the seller will complete a smart home disclosure, which is incorporated as part of this agreement and identifies the items the seller intends to convey with the sale. All attached fixtures must convey unless identified above. So we're just saying all window treatments, all attached shelving, all light fixtures, all the things that are attached to the home should convey. TVs are always a question in this, which is why they created the smart home addendum. So if you have TVs attached to the walls, most of us do, we may want to address that in the form of a smart home addendum. Or, again, take them down ahead of time. Moving on. And this here we're talking about things that are leased in the property. In this case, the seller's identifying they have a solar system that's leased. If that's the case, you're going to want to make sure that that's disclosed when you deal with offers. Even though we're marketing the home and letting the buyers know in our marketing that the solar system is leased, if we don't address it in a counteroffer when they write their offer, the seller could be exposed to having to pay off that lease in the conveyance, because the way our residential property agreement was written, everything should be delivered with free of liens, and so that could be a problem. So you're going to want to make sure that when you do the counter to any offers, that you identify this lease in the counter and provide the buyer with a copy of the terms of the lease as well. The seller is going to provide title insurance. The seller is going to be paying their broker. In this case, we're getting 6%, and we also get a $350 brokerage administrative commission, which we use to help keep our attorney on retainer here at the company. If there was a lease, some of the terms would be talked about here if we're leasing the property. Compensations due to us, and this one clause basically says if 6 months after the agreement the home is sold to somebody we showed it to, then we still get paid our commission, unless, of course, you're listed with another broker at that time. Down here, if you do owe us money and there's a delay in paying it for whatever reason, we would also be entitled to interest on those funds. I've never had any of these things happen, but they're part of the agreement, so I'm letting you know about it. You're authorizing us to accept a deposit on your behalf, but it would be deposited in a third neutral party in the escrow, and the escrow company would handle that money. As a relationship with our sellers, we could represent just you, or you could give us permission to represent both you and the buyer. In certain circumstances, that's appropriate or necessary. It can be useful in terms of showing the property. But if we were going to be representing both parties, we would have to make sure you were aware of that in writing. You would have to give us your approval to do so. You, as a seller, will be completing a variety of disclosures. One I'm outlining here is a seller's real property disclosure. That's another video that I created for you guys to help you understand what that's about. It's required of all sellers in the state of Nevada. There are a few exceptions, but they're pretty remote, pretty obscure. And there's other disclosures that you will be obligated to fill out depending upon the terms of depending upon what the age of your home is and what other issues have happened. If there's been any lawsuits or other things involved, there would be further disclosures required as well. In item 9, you're indemnifying us against any specific knowledge. If you don't tell us about stuff, we can't be expected to be aware of it. You understand that we're marketing the house using fair housing laws. In this case, the seller is identifying that the home is in a common interest community, an HOA, if you will. And here's the name of the HOA, the phone number, and the monthly expenses. And then it's also in a master plan that's outlined here, same details, phone number, and the monthly expenses. This home also has what's known as a SID. That's a special improvement district. That's a bond that the local municipality put on the property to help build out the infrastructure. A lot of builders of master plans have imparted these so they could keep the prices down on the properties, but then they add this to your monthly expense. The good news is at some point it is paid off. This one has a balance of a little over, just shy of $7,000, of which they're paying $485 every 6 months. The seller is authorizing us to put a lockbox on the property, in this case an electronic lockbox. And those electronic lockboxes are terrific because they do identify who's in the house and when. And so they're very, very useful for us in making sure we keep track of who's been showing the property to get feedback. The seller also is authorizing us to issue one-day codes. Let me talk about this just for a second. Our broker has a very specific rule about this that I like to follow. One-day codes, what you're doing as a seller, you're saying, yes, Harvey, you can give out one-day codes, but what we don't do is we don't give out one-day codes to people who should have access to lockbox already. In other words, if an agent said, hey, can you give me a one-day code, I wouldn't give it to them because there's a reason they may not have access, and I don't want to give them access if there's a reason they shouldn't have it. But if you're going to set a plumber in the house and you're not around and you want me to give your plumber a one-day code, I can do that so nobody has to be there to let the plumber in. This particular property is not for rent. If it was, we would make that known. And if it was subject to a property management agreement, we would make that known as well as a seller. Tax withholding. If you are a foreign national seller, there are special rules. You must know that we would have to withhold funds from your proceeds to pay any federal taxes. So if you're a foreign national, you need to know that. You need to make that a part of the disclosure. It's very important. And I don't want to read this because this is one of the reasons it's important. As a buyer, you should know that too. Seller understands that if seller is a foreign person, then the buyer must withhold a tax in the amount determined by the escrow holder in accordance with the FERPTA unless an exemption applies. The buyer then becomes responsible for the tax. Now, as a seller, you might be wringing your hands, ooh, let the buyer pay it. Well, the buyer's not going to want to pay it. The buyer's going to want to come after you. So as a foreign national, you need to disclose that so the monies can be withheld. Now, there are rules. Sometimes, a lot of times the monies don't need to be withheld, but if you are a foreign national, please do disclose it. This is where you would say that. Yes, I am or am not. These people are not foreign nationals. Mediation, basically in here you're agreeing to mediation before any lawsuit, but you're not relinquishing your right to sue. You know that we're going to be using multiple listing service in this agreement, and you know we're going to be using a lot of the photos and details of your property to market it, all the best features. And in this instance, you're authorizing us to do just that, to commence public marketing. You're also authorizing here to put a sign in your yard. There are opt-outs. This is a whole section related to the idea. Many years ago, some of the major search engines sued multiple lists and said, hey, your data is public data. We want it, give it to us. And we basically argued against that. Said, no, it's not public data. It's our data that we use to sell properties, and we share only with other brokers at that time. And we won that lawsuit. And as a result of that lawsuit, now we have these clauses in the contract which basically say you don't have to market the house on the internet, which is just silly. So we encourage you to not opt out of any of those things. This is about an office exclusive listing. This is pretty rare here in Southern Nevada. I know in other markets they do this. Here we don't really do it that much. It does happen occasionally. But what you're saying to the broker is, look, I don't want you to put my house in multiple lists. I want you to sell it just to people you know or people in your own office. And in that case, we can do that if you agree to this section of the agreement. But you need to know this. Once you agree to that, if we cannot do any public marketing, and I want to read this section to you. Seller acknowledges and agrees that if there's any public marketing of office exclusive listing, then the broker must submit the listing to GLVR MLS for dissemination to its participants. So if we just do any public marketing, it has to go in multiple lists. But if you don't want us to do public marketing, we won't. In this case, we're not electing to do that. We're going to want the house made available to all the brokers in the valley. And that's every contract I've ever done has been like that. The use of listing content we can use in a variety of ways and a variety of marketing. This contract is written in Nevada under Nevada law. What's written is what counts. What I'm saying by way of explanation right now doesn't even count. So your interpretation of the agreement may or may not be right, but what's written is what counts. If part of the contract was deemed invalid, it would not invalidate the whole thing. If there's a lawsuit, the loser is going to agree to pay everybody's attorney's fees. As a broker, we do have a damage cap. Basically, it's the amount of the commission. If you are in foreclosure as a seller, you need to tell us. In this case, they're not. And if any summons or complaints from a lender has been sent to you, you need to let us know and when it was sent, if that's the case. This says that by signing this agreement, you agree to it. Any recommendations that we make are based on our experience. I can tell you that we collect no money from any of our vendors. I don't want that. I want them to just take good care of my clients. If they want to continue to get my business, they will take good care of my clients. We have changed vendors occasionally because they didn't. And so just know that because we do sell a lot of properties as a team, that might be useful to you in terms of the leverage we provide when dealing with these other vendors as well. If you were to default, my broker could sue you for the commission. Again, that's never happened. There's a binding effect, joint and several. You're signing this joint and severally. You're responsible both joint and severally. Time is of the essence. No undue stalling under any circumstances. This check mark here is that once you go under contract, there's choices as to how you're listed in MLS. I like to have under contract show because, and there's a couple reasons for that. One, it rarely happens, very, very rarely would an agent want to show your property if it's already under contract, but multiple list will disseminate that to the variety of portals out there, and they will still show it as available. And thus that means that we might still get activity on it and maybe perhaps get you a backup offer. This is talking about a 1031 property exchange. If you're intending to do that, you would mark yes. In this case, they're not doing that. That's a tax-deferred exchange for for properties that are not owner-occupied. That's for investment properties only. We can put additional terms in here. As you can see, we put something in here that we use quite frequently. This part here is really important. Bold, capitalized letters. The pre-printed portion of this agreement has been approved by the Greater Las Vegas Association of Realtors. No representation is made as to legal validity or adequacy or any provision or the tax consequences thereof. For legal or tax advice, consult your attorney or tax advisor. See, we're saying it before and we're saying it after also. By signing below, you're agreeing to the terms. Here's the place where you would be signing, dating, and timing. Both the sellers would do it here. And of course, you're initialing the bottom of all these pages, by the way. I didn't say that earlier, but you're going to be initialing the bottom of all these pages. Here's identifying us as the broker. Now, you know, your listing is with the broker, but the broker is assigning me as your agent in this case, Harvey Blankfeld. I'm the one that's going to be working on your listing. And then initial here. And then this last page talks about equal opportunity in housing. This is all the various elements that we have to adhere to under fair housing laws. And that's what this page is all about. That is our exclusive rights listing agreement that we use here in Las Vegas for you. I hope this video was helpful, and I wish you great luck in selling your home. I hope you found this video helpful. Please feel free to review our other videos at www.lvrrealestateradio.com. And once again, thank you for taking the time to learn about this document. And if you have any questions, just call or text me at 702-203-1165.